Let's go live now to the Ontario Science Centre, where OPSEU members are releasing the results of new polls on the decision to close the building.
Because it's a place of wonder, it's a place of fun, it's a place of joy, where you can be yourself. You can, whether you're a child or an adult, let out your inner child or your child and discover things at your own pace. Choose what you're interested in, look as much time as you want for something to do, to look for, and be inspired. We have huge number of people come back every year. Some people come back many times a year because this is where they feel happy. And so it has been devastating for us. It has been heartbreaking to be here when the Science Centre closed on June 21st at the beginning of summer, from one day to the next without warning. Me and my colleagues, two of them stand behind me here, continue to work here every day. I have about 50 to 100 people that come in every day working in the entire facility. We're told that it's totally safe to be here. There is no worry, even in a heavy rainstorm. So whatever we hear about the roof not being safe, that is not what we are actually told. We also know that there are 366 schools in Ontario that have the same roof as the Science Centre. And as you know, they're not being shut down. We've heard from our visitors that they're devastated too, that they're heartbroken, and they don't understand why they can't come in. We heard it over and over again from teachers, from students, from parents, from grandparents. So we're scientists. The science is based on evidence. Doesn't matter what your ideology is, what you think. What really matters is evidence. And so we decided to pay the money for a polling company to do a representative poll of what Ontarians think about the plans of the government. So we have them here, we have them available. We will publish them for Ontarians to read for themselves. And so one question that was asked is, do you support or oppose the Ontario government's plan to shut down the Science Centre immediately in its current location and relocate it to a new facility on the Toronto waterfront 4 years later in 2028? 74% of respondents opposed that plan. The company asked 1,000 respondents, so that's representative, very clear across the board. Doesn't matter what your generation is, what your gender is, what region you're in, the results are consistent. Another question we asked is, which course of action do you think is in the best interest of Ontarians? 72% said, making all necessary repairs to the Ontario Science Centre at the Don Mills location and continuing to operate this at this location. So I am a public servant. I do this job because I love serving the public. And I think as a government institution, as an institution for the public service, for the public, we should do what the majority of Ontarians want. 55 years ago, this facility opened in 1969 as a gift to Ontarians. It does not belong to the government, it belongs to the people of Ontario. So we think that the government should do what Ontarians want. With that, I'd like to introduce you to JP Hornick, OPSEU President.
Thanks, Martin. Hi, I'm JP Hornick. I'm the president of OPSEU CEFPO. OPSEU CEFPO represents nearly 200,000 public service workers across the province of Ontario, including the workers here at the Ontario Science Centre. And like the workers here, like the community here, we were absolutely stunned in June to hear about the closure, the imminent closure of the Ontario Science Centre. The public outcry that has resulted from this Ford government decision is clear. And because these workers are scientists, they sought the data to back up the evidence, to find the evidence that supports that public outcry. And what we found is that nearly 8 out of 10 Ontarians, including over 50% of PC voters, believe that this is the wrong decision. We know that this is the wrong decision. We know that the investment in this building is worth the effort. And we also know, we've seen private support, private philanthropists come up and say, we will fund this. This is not about what is right for kids. This is not about what's right for this community. This is a question of the choices the Ford government is making around education, and specifically around science education, but also specifically around marginalized communities in Toronto and in Ontario. As my dad likes to say, follow the money. Who stands to benefit from the closure of the Science Centre? Certainly not the community in Thorncliffe Park and Flemingdon Park. Certainly not the children of Ontario. We've heard time and again parents and community members and the workers here say that this is not the right choice. We saw a city inspector on the day that this building was said to be closed by the Ford government say that this is not in any imminent danger of collapse. And then we saw people step forward, the original design firm that built the Science Centre. We've seen architects from across Ontario, who we'll hear from in a second, who have noted that this is entirely fixable, and that indeed there will be a 5 to 10 year gap before we see a new Science Centre. This is a Ford government choice, and more than that, it is a poorly thought out choice. They're not even ready to move these exhibits into a set location anywhere else, even for storage, let alone to continue the science education we so desperately need. This is a Ford government choice about where they want to invest in Ontario. They do not want to invest in education. They do not want to invest in kids. And they certainly don't want to invest in the communities that so desperately need anchors like the Ontario Science Centre. They are going against their own interests. They are going against Ontarians' interests. And we know that this is the wrong decision. This is the wrong choice. And we know that when we stand with the community, and that when we push back, we can get them to change these decisions. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us now to rise up, to say this is important to have the Science Centre, not just at some point in the future, and certainly not in an undisclosed forum in Ontario Place or other ways, but right here, right now. It is time to reverse this decision, to invest in the families and communities that rely on this Science Centre, and to make sure that our kids have access to the STEM education that we need. This is an investment now, but also going into the future. I'm going to turn it over to Dilshamji.
Well, we've been listening to members of OPSEU, including JP Hornick, talking about the release of some new poll numbers on the decision to close the Science Centre. We'll have a little bit more on those findings throughout the morning and afternoon.